Welcome to you all. My name is Pastor Darrel Katusha, and today we are going to be tackling a very interesting topic. This topic, many people have requested it, and I just thought maybe this is the right time to record it. The topic goes as follows: the master key to compatibility. But before we begin, shall we bow our heads for a word of prayer? Father in heaven, we thank you, Lord, for allowing us to have this opportunity to discuss matters that you have taught us, matters that you have counseled us on. Now, as we go a little deeper into the issues of compatibility, we ask that, Lord, you may be with us and be with the viewers who are watching at this moment. I pray all this in His grace and name. Amen. Now, many people ask the question, especially young people who are still dating or courting, to ask, but how do I know that this person is the right person? Well, I'm not saying I'm a guru at every issue, but there are certain things that people have put together that I would like to share with you. Now, it is not a secret that thousands of people have been breaking up, and so many divorces we've seen. Maybe it's because it's the 2020s or the 2019s or the 2018s. But it has been recorded that the divorce rates have increased over the years. And we want to find out maybe we are missing something at the early stages. You see, God is the creator of marriage. He is the master designer of how it should happen, the master designer of the institution itself. He created Adam, and Adam was compatible to Eve. So if anything, we should go back to the designer now. If you buy a microwave from Samsung, and if it gives you issues and gives you problems, where do you take it to? The boys under the tree? No, you take it back to the manufacturer. So when we see loopholes in our society in terms of marriage, we go back to the designer and find out what was he thinking, what was his intention, and what is his wisdom behind how we should have our marriages. Genesis 2 verse 18 reads as follows: God said, "It is not good for a man to be alone. I will make him a suitable helper for him." Now, there are certain things that I want just to unpack from this verse. You see, the one who is speaking is God, the one who speaks out of nothing and creates something. This same God is saying it is not good for man to be alone. Now, just for a few moments here, I want to ask, is there a difference between loneliness and being alone? Think about it. Is there a difference between loneliness and being alone? When you are alone, you are in the absence of people. There is no one around you. But when you are lonely, it doesn't mean that the people are not around you. Maybe it means that the people who are around you are not answering to the deeper need inside of you. So the verse does not say it is not good for man to be lonely. It says it's not good for man to be alone. So the first point I want to just throw in there is we don't get married for loneliness. We don't marry someone because I'm feeling lonely. You marry because you are alone and you need a partner to help you in this life. Now, the partner that must be chosen must be a helper. Now, many young people don't get this because they think love is all that we need. No, love must be in the presence of certain principles. If your person or your significant other is not helping you in the relationship, you may find that you are alone in the relationship for a very long time. So the Bible is simply saying a helper which is suitable. Now, already these seem to be like principles. Now, if the helper is suitable for him, this doesn't mean that the helper should be the same with him. This simply means that the helper must complement him. If the helper does not complement him, you'll find that the helper may complicate him. So we don't get married because we are lonely. We get married because we are alone and God has a suitable helper for us. Now, the issue that you must understand here is these seem to be the guidelines of what God has put for us when we are looking for our people or looking for that right person. You need to understand you don't have to be the same. You don't have to be the same. In fact, when you are different, that diversity of being different, take for instance a plug on the socket or a socket. If the plug is round, the socket will receive the round end of the plug. They are compatible, but you may find that the shape of the plug may be different types of shapes. But the important part is the socket will receive the shape of the plug. The important section will be received. But you'll find that the head of the plug may be diverse. So you may find that you may like pink, he may like blue. It doesn't mean that you all should like pink or you should all like blue for you to be compatible. Sometimes being different doesn't mean that you're incompatible. So I'll just want to give you 6 keys and 1 master key to unpack what should you look for when you are looking for a partner. The first thing that you should look for is age. Age plays a very, very important factor when you are looking for someone to spend your whole life with. At different stages of your life or different cycles of your life, there are different needs. So it's important for you to consider the age of your person. Big differences in age can result in inability to satisfy each other. Now, this year will result in some serious marital conflict. You need to understand that the differences in age may leave you feeling like you may have made a mistake. For example, you don't want to be in a situation where you marry someone who's too old for you to relate with or too young for you to understand, because maturity plays a vital role in marriage, because marriage is not for small boys. Marriage is for men who are ready to become husbands. So you want to be able to sit down with your wife or your husband and discuss home things, discuss home finances, discuss the future of your children and everything that comes with the home. So you must understand that it is important to get someone who's mature, someone who understands what it means to be in a home and in a relationship. So there's something I want you to understand also. Many people have given gaps to what is the age gap that you need. This is not conclusive, but many researchers have seen that the ages of 5 to 8, that's the best distance in terms of age between partners. 5 years difference to 8 years difference is the best age gap between partners. But I want you to understand that the man has got to be older. This here is because scientifically women may be older than men. For example, you see, when a man is 35 years old, he still wants to buy mags on his car. But when a woman is 35 years old, she wants to buy spoons. She's thinking bigger and better. Why? Because biologically, women age faster than men. So you would want to balance the two. So you don't want a woman to get a boy who's 20-something and she's 30-something, and yet they are trying to run a home. You will find the challenge is his immaturity may frustrate the home. So you want a situation where your person is mature enough to handle the daily stresses of a home. So 5 to 8 years is a good age for you to be compatible in terms of ages. You don't want to go out and find yourself an ancestor. What do I mean by an ancestor? Someone who we call sugar daddies or sugar mummies. People who've lived their life and have attained financial wealth and are buying your love with a few dollars. Don't give the best of your youth, don't give the best of your life to someone who's lived it all. Try not to justify it and call them, I don't know what we call them these days. We call them side chick or big chick, main chick, whatever you call it. God calls it fornication. God calls it adultery. God doesn't have half-half in it. When you give yourself away to older people, it is you that gets spent. It is you that is finished. It is you that loses your self-wealth. You need to understand that if you have not found anyone at this point, rather wait for God. Age does matter. Another thing about age is, if your age difference is just about a year or two, you may find that you may, what they say in Ndebele, there's no one who can tell the other because you are peers. So I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying understand the reason why when you talk, she may talk, or when you talk, he may talk, is because you are peers in terms of age. So don't throw out the towel because you think she's rude. No, it's because you are peers. The second item that I need you to understand, or the second key I want you to understand, is education. A big difference in education levels can cause serious problems in your marriage. And I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, Zimbabwe is hard, or the world is hard, we are waiting for that opportunity. The Bible sends us to the ants. Look at the ants. They have no leader, they have no commander, but they still do their work. They still save, and they still have opportunity to create more wealth because they go out every day and make a plan. There are certain types of people who, because they've got a degree, are going to sit at home and wait for a job opening. You've got to understand that education is not completely a requirement on its own, but you also need someone with an education. You see, let me give you an example. Imagine your wife is a doctor, and you maybe, let's say, not to undermine any job, let's say you're less than a doctor, and one day your wife decides, oh, let's go and meet my friends, maybe let's go have lunch wherever they're inviting us for lunch, and you tag along because your wife has asked you, and as you get there, you find yourself with this grouping of doctors and their wives and all that. And imagine a conversation ensues, and they're talking about the surgical this and the surgical that, and they're talking about the femur, and then as the conversation comes down the line, it comes up to you and they say to you, sir, what is your take on ABCD? Some may feel offended at that point and may feel like, so you guys are trying to show that you guys are doctors. And imagine as you leave that place and you go into the car, an argument may erupt just from that moment to say, you see, your doctor friends, they thought they were clever. They thought I didn't know the answer, but I just showed them that I will not answer it, but I knew the answer. And you'll find that awkwardness will always be there, where your wife has to overcompensate because the levels of education may be what? May be different. Another thing about education is your circle of friendship may differ. You see, when your doctor wife is associating with other doctors from other places, you may find a challenge now with relating to her circle of friends. So there you want to get your own circle of friends, and she's going to get her own circle of friends, and then you will do little together because you have different associations. I'm not saying because you are educated you should be in each other's space. I'm saying each one of you will be able to complement each other in your different businesses or in your different areas of expertise without having to feel that she's trying to be proud. You'd have an understanding that this is what entails her work. Now, when you have different, extremely different ways in terms of your career paths, you'll find that partners begin to drift apart. If you have a master's and you want to date a girl who just finished her A-level, you are being unequally yoked in terms of education because you are far ahead. Your brain has been taxed in tertiary institutions and she is just starting life. If you have a degree and your person just finished A-levels, maybe we can see what can happen, but normally it's nicer if your person has a degree and you have a degree. If you are finishing A-levels and you see whether you want to have a boyfriend at that time, or you wait until you are finished, or you are in your second year in your whatever program that you're doing for you to start dating. Masters and degree, that makes sense. But you don't want a situation where the gap is too far from from masters to A-level. In between there's a lot of immaturity that you may not be able to harness. I'm not talking about people who fail to go to school and because of situation they're unable to go to school. I'm talking of an ideal situation where all things are equal. Try your best to make sure you are not unequally yoked in terms of education. Another key point that you must have or to go through is health. You need to check if your person is healthy. In fact, John 3 or 3 John verse 1 to 2 says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers." There's certain things that you cannot let go of because you're a Christian. The first thing that you must not let go of is you need to check the health status in terms of HIV and AIDS of your person. You have to, there's no other way, check each other's status. It's very important because you don't want to find out when you are married that your person is HIV positive. It doesn't matter what they are. They may be a deacon in church, they may be a pastor in church, they may be that nice person that everyone likes in the environment. It really doesn't matter who they are. But I want you to understand that no matter how much you love them, you need to make sure that they are not HIV positive. Why? We've had so many situations where marriages have broken up because they found out what they should have found out before. Another thing you should check for is, what is the disease that is found in their family? Maybe there's hypertension, maybe there's diabetes. That way you are at a better place of helping each other to reduce the effectiveness of the disease in the family, and as it passes down the line, you all know it becomes hereditary and all those things. You want to reduce the effects of those things. So you may want to ask these questions. You see, before you enter into a marriage, know everything, at least enough about your person. Ask these questions. There are so many other questions that we ask that may not be relevant to the marriage. You like blue, I like blue. Oh, I love this guy because we like the same color. Why don't you ask and say, what diseases are in your home? My mom suffered from hypertension. You may find that your firstborn, because your family has got a history of hypertension, it may complicate your firstborn. But if you handle your body as you go along, knowing this, you may find that you may not have as many complications. Now, I know I'm not a doctor or anything. I'm simply saying, make sure you check the health status of your partner so that you don't have unnecessary frequent fights. If you don't like women or men that wear glasses, you need to check if in their family they wear glasses. Because some people have divorced because of small things like wearing glasses, to say, I didn't know they wear glasses, now she's wearing glasses. There are certain things that you need to check for. If both the parents are wearing glasses, most likely if she's not wearing or he's not wearing them now, he will wear them in the future. So there are certain things that we should ask for, but it is important to check the health of your person. It is very, very important. Do they have heart problems? What is it? This also determines how you cook in your home. Another thing that you need to understand is culture. Culture is diverse, and I understand that we are in a global village right now. But there are certain things that I need you to take note of. Some cultural differences are simple and easily solved. But there are others that are complex and need to be examined much, much, much closely. You see, when you marry a person, you don't just marry them, you marry their family. And as you marry their family, it becomes awkward or difficult for you to handle. Let me just give you 3 examples. So in Zimbabwe, we have about 3 cultures. I know we've got more, but I am able to relate to about 3 cultures. There's Shona, there's Ndebele, and there's me, there's Colored, right? So you will find that the Shona people have a different culture to the Ndebele people, and as do the Colored people. Now, an example I want to give is, when a Shona man or a Shona lady comes into the house, before they even enter, they greet, then they sit. Then they greet again sometimes. But in Ndebeles now, when they enter, they just greet and they sit. Sometimes in unique situations, you may find that the Shona people will enter, sit, and then greet, while the Ndebele people will enter, greet, and then sit. Now you see all those different dynamics are coming from different cultures. Now with the Colored people, I can just say, hey, hi, how's it? Are you okay? It doesn't matter whether it's my mother-in-law or my father-in-law or my auntie. The greeting is the same. Now, there are two places where you will see culture at its fullest, I think. It's at a wedding and at a funeral. Now, at a Shona funeral, this is what you will find. They will sing the whole night. And they will sing the whole night until the day of the burial. In the morning, the daughters-in-law will sweep the dirt from the yard, but they will leave it in little heaps. And you are supposed to pay them to pick up the dirt. And you know, if you're not in that culture, you'll say, so why were you sweeping it if you're not going to pick it up? So all those little awkward things, if you don't see them from the light of their culture, you may think, no, this is not right. But it is right. It's their culture. Someone who covered the door, I'm assuming the body is already in the house, someone who covered the door with a little cloth, you are supposed to pay them in order to open for the coffin to get out of the house. There's a lot of paying that happens. And you'll find to someone who's not from the culture, to them they'll find it's very awkward. It's a very awkward culture. It's not awkward, that's their culture. With Ndebeles, it's a more quieter funeral. Men sit outside, women sit inside, and they just sing church songs, and then they are done. Now, with the colored people now, even the food is different. You come with your sandwiches, you pass your condolences, there's no sleeping over, you come for the day of the funeral, and that's it. All these different cultures have different demands, so you need to know what culture. Even bride price, the idea of bride price, the Shona people, their value of bride price is in US dollars. It's in money. The value of bride price for Ndebele people is in cows. So they evaluate money in terms of cows. With colored people, if I'm marrying a colored girl, I don't pay bride price. So I'm not saying it's cheap or anything. I'm just saying I don't pay bride price. So to you, it may look like it's awkward. It's not. It's a culture. So I want you to understand that when cultures groom your partner or your person, they make up almost 90% of who they really are. So you need to understand if your culture is compatible to the one you want to enter into, so that you don't get a cultural shock when you are in there. When you come and take a colored girl, or when I want to marry a colored girl, let me say that, I must make an appointment with the dad and say, Dad, I would like to marry your daughter. And the dad's going to say, okay, come over for supper. There are two things that you must have done before you come over for supper. First of all, you must make sure you got your ducks in a row. By ducks in a row, you better make sure that you know what you do in life. Number two, you better make sure your medical aid is up to date, because two things can happen. It's either you're accepted as a father, as a son-in-law, or he's going to punch you in the face. So you better be ready for both of them. When you come over for supper, he's going to ask you a series of questions. So what do you do in life? You can't say, well, I'm just moving A, B, C, D. Those little questions are an assessment to find a worth for you, for his daughter. And when you are denied, he can just refuse and say, no, you're not the right person for my daughter. He's not going to take time to think about it. He's going to tell you instantly, you're not the right person for my daughter and I don't want you here. Those are the kind of things that can happen. And if you are accepted, you see, the wedding is paid for not by the groom. The wedding is paid for by the father of the bride. Now, can you imagine that? The Ndebele culture, the groom has got to pay. The Shona culture, the groom has got to pay. But in the colored culture, it is the father of the bride that pays for the wedding. All I have to do is buy a suit and just wear shoes and rock up to the wedding. So the cultures are different. But now I need you to understand something. With some colored girls, you can't just talk to her the way you want and hope that it's over. You talk once, she's going to talk again. You talk once, she's going to talk again. Because our culture says you don't keep anything that is happening inside of you. You say it as it is. So sometimes imagine your mother-in-law is asking a question and your colored wife gets very offended. She will just say it as it is, but to her it's not being rude. It's saying out her mind because her culture has oriented her in that way. So it's important to understand certain things in culture. Mothers-in-law. Sons-in-law are not supposed to look at mothers-in-law when they are eating in certain cultures. But you find in a colored culture, you can even talk and hug your mother-in-law. So all those things may offend the culture that you are trying to go into or the culture that you are from. So before you enter into whatever culture you are in, make sure you study the culture and see if it's compatible to your own culture. Key number 5 is family values. Now Ezekiel 16 verse 44 to 45 says, the adulterous daughter adopted a value system from her mother. An adulterous daughter adopted a value system from her mother. This is very interesting. 2 Timothy 1 verse 5 says, the godly youth adopted the values of his mother and his grandmother. Now we've got two situations here. Ezekiel is saying, when you see an adulterous woman, they may have adopted those value systems from the mother. But when you see a godly youth, they may have adopted those systems from a mother and a grandmother. Now, this is very, very interesting. You see, what we see at home as young people, we will do when we are older. Make sure that you know the whole family and see the whole family and be able to judge the whole family by what they value the most. To a great extent, we are a product of values of our parents, for it is in the home that as children we see models and develop concepts, unconsciously assimilate standards of what? Of behavior. So it is very important for you to understand the culture, to understand the family values of the particular family that you want to enter into. But I want you to understand also, it is very important for you to understand that even if you come from a family of harlots, it is up to you to break the cycle. And the only way you can break that cycle is by Christ himself. Without Christ, we can't break any of our cycles and our generational curses. You must understand that in order for you to break that cycle, you must be able to be a God-fearing person. Now, there's another point or another key. This is key number 6. This is temperaments. Now, temperaments are a very unique way of describing our character. Now, there are 4 basic temperaments. There is a phlegmatic, there is a melancholy, there's a sanguine, and there's a choleric. Now, I want to give you just a few characters in the Bible with the different temperaments that we've discovered. Now, the sanguine, this would be Peter. This is an outgoing, very talkative, very charismatic person. These are people who should be working in marketing, advertising, people whose creative juices are all, they are public people. They love to talk. These are comedians. These are people who just love people. Now imagine you marry a girl who's a sanguine. She's going to be talkative. She's going to be outgoing. She's going to be charismatic. Everywhere she goes, she makes friends what? Easily. Someone might say, this girl is very loose. She's a sanguine, and her character is as such. We have also a choleric. This is a Paul character. Hardworking, very practical, very decisive, no-nonsense type of person. His yes is a yes, and his no is a no. These are soldiers. These are military people. These are uniformed forces, but also these are MDs and CEOs of companies. They give you just a short little rope for you to put your contribution, but they've already made up their minds. These are Paul-like people, decisive. They never do anything without thinking. And that's why they are very successful. Then we have phlegmatics like Abraham. These are easygoing, supportive, and very peaceful. I don't really like this temperament because this temperament, if you are 2 of you and you're fighting and you come to a phlegmatic with all your fight, you hope that the phlegmatic maybe takes your side. Phlegmatics don't do that. They see the goodness in both sides. And it's so annoying, you know, when you really want him to be on your side and you just find this person saying, no, maybe you guys are talking differently. But, you know, so imagine you're married to a phlegmatic. You may think he's not taking your side or she's not taking your side because they are on the other person's side. No, their temperament is not a violent temperament. It's a peaceful temperament. And the last temperament is a melancholy. This is like a Moses type of person. Very analytical, very emotional, very creative. Now, these people can love you in a creative manner, but also when you cross their path, they can hurt you in a creative manner. Let me give you an example. You see, when they cook for you, They will design the plate, even if it's just simple food. When they break you in stages. For example, you wake up in the morning and say, hey babe, how are you this morning? I'm fine. So how was your day? It was okay. Why? Because they know emotionally that will eat you up, and they'll move from one stage to another, one stage to another. So emotions here means that they just cry when they are happy, they cry when they are sad, they cry when they are confused. They are very emotional people. So with all these factors to do with temperaments, I would just want to play around with the couple. You see, you have one temperament that is your primary temperament, and the other one is your secondary temperament. So you can have 2 or 3 or more, right? But I want you to understand that, imagine for marriage, to say, let's make couples out of the 4. Imagine if the sanguine had to marry the choleric, and the choleric was up for promotion at work, and let's say he's a uniformed force guy and is working as a soldier and is very stressed that someone else took the promotion. And imagine he comes home furious to his sanguine wife, who finds everything funny. And this is a serious guy. And he comes home and says, I'm so angry. I've been working so hard. Why didn't I get a promotion? Now imagine the sanguine is burning to crack a joke right there. But this guy is not finding it very funny. Imagine at that moment your sanguine wife just throws a joke and says, oh, my sweetie, don't worry. There's a promotion at Spa next week. It will make him even angrier just listening to her. And then the shouting will begin, because she cannot see that at this point it's not time for a joke. At this point, it's time to give a listening ear. But now the temperament may overpower that moment. You see what I'm trying to say? Now imagine also the phlegmatic marrying the melancholy. You'll find that phlegmatics never start anything. They never finish anything. They will follow and complete. So phlegmatics are like doctors. They move in systems, accountants. They like to do things that have systems. They don't want change. Now imagine they don't start anything, they don't move anything, and the melancholy is very emotional. You'll find that it will just be an emotional, type of marriage where there's nothing new that happens. We always have to do certain things in a certain way. But when you mush it up a bit and you say, what if the choleric marries the melancholy? Melancholies are very emotional. And the melancholy wife comes out of the room and says, what do you think of my dress? Now, cholerics are very straightforward and very bitter. When they cut throat when they are speaking. Choleric will say, you want me to tell you what the mirror said? Did the mirror not tell you what you look like? Now imagine that emotion taken by the melancholy. That's a breakdown and cry moment right there. I'm not saying these are how it happens all the time. I'm giving hypothetical situations determined by their characters. I would suggest the choleric and the phlegmatic get married, because the choleric will always move forward and the phlegmatic will always follow. Of course, here and there, you will find that the phlegmatic will give his opinion or her opinion. But I'm saying, for peace's sake, you'll find it easier that way. The sanguine and the melancholy can both enjoy themselves, because one is emotional and analytical, the other one is outgoing and talkative. So they kind of complement each other. Now you will find, even in the way we text, a sanguine likes paragraphs. Will send a lot of paragraphs on how my day was like this. Before you even finish answering, they are already sending something else. But you will find a response from a choleric is, okay, fine, later. And you think, oh, who is he talking to? That is not talking to me. You'll find sometimes it's not that he is talking to someone else. Maybe he's not chatty because it's not within his temperament. I'm not saying these temperaments can't be tweaked. I'm saying once you know your person's temperament, you know how to stimulate, you know how to work with your person from where they are to where you want them to be. Now, we have mentioned 6 of these keys: age, education, health, culture, family values, temperaments. But there remains one very important key, and this is the master key, and this is the 7th key, and that is spiritual unity. Now, with this one, the Bible in Deuteronomy 7 verse 3 to 4 says, "Nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor their daughter for your son, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods." Now, when you give your children to people who don't believe what you believe, they will then turn your children away from what you've always believed to something else. 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14 says, "Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers." I want to say here, marry the religion that you are. So, without debating much on what you should look for and what you shouldn't look for when you are dating and preparing for marriage, I want to recommend that as you are starting off this love relationship of yours, may God be in that center. May God be in the center of that relationship, because without Him, all these things are just futile. He is the designer of marriage. He is the one who instituted it. And He's the one with the solutions to our problems in case we go astray. And like I said, marry the religion where you are coming from. That way, it's always easier. May God bless you, and may God be with you as you continue looking for the right person. And I hope you're not just looking for Mrs. Right or Mr. Right. You are actually trying to be Mr. or Miss Right. May God bless you. Until we meet again in another one of our exciting programs, we pray that God be with you.